beauty is what is in your heart, because it is what is in your heart that comes out on the outside. I was enslaved to the idea that beauty was about straight, nice, curly hair, or, you know, a lighter complexion. This is what we do.
Yeah.
We put on a mask and we dress in nice outfits and we show up. We show up. And nobody knows what is behind that mask. Really, really struggling, battling depression, feeling hopeless, and thinking that, okay, I remember there was a moment in time when I was there and I was like, okay, if I die now, God will provide somebody to take care of my son. That's where I was at. She said, go do what God told you to do, which is beautiful me. I get chills every time I talk about it. Because if you don't set boundaries in relationships and even with yourself, you're going to find that you end up getting hurt, right? People are not going to take you seriously. And you are going to just be, people will use you. People will use you. And so you have to set these boundaries. Your mental health depends on it.
This is what Sensational Sunday is all about. It's bringing the inspiration and motivation to get you to where you need to go. Get up, get out, and know that God has a plan for your life. Welcome to another episode of Sensational Sunday. And as usual, I am supercalifragilisticexpialidociously happy to be here. It's always a fine time when we get into the studio at Flashpoint. And as usual, we have an extraordinary, inspiring guest in our studio. And you know, it's not good to start at the end, but I have been reading these beautiful words, and I believe it's fitting that we start this episode of Sensational Sunday in this way. As I pen down the closing words of Beautiful Me, a journey of self-discovery, acceptance, and unconditional love, I am overwhelmed with gratitude to the incredible odyssey we have embarked upon together. This book was born from the raw honesty of facing our fears, embracing our flaws, and learning to love ourselves unconditionally. Yes, today we have the author of this book, Beautiful Me, right here in the studio, Miss Monique Anderson. And I say welcome to Sensational Sunday.
Thank you. I'm excited.
It's such an honor and a privilege to be sitting in your presence. You know, I read those words and I wonder if one day I will have the ability to express myself so eloquently.
Absolutely.
So, Monique, tell me about Beautiful Me.
Okay. So, Beautiful Me, I'd like to say it was Holy Spirit breathe. It was just a random day that I was sitting down and the words Beautiful Me just out of the blue. And I was like, God, what are you trying to say? Like, beautiful me. And it was a point in time in my life when I didn't feel beautiful. I didn't think I was beautiful. And
who told you
I
those
always
lies?
say, I know.
Who told you those are lies?
The devil tends to do
That's
that.
a lie
know?
from the pit of
Yes,
hell.
Indeed. And
Yes.
so I was really struggling. And I always say this to persons that I meet or even my students, that nobody would think that I have struggled with low self-esteem almost all my life. And so here I was. In this moment, I was struggling with depression. I felt like I was not good enough. I was not worthy. I was going through a battle, a divorce. Nobody wants to go through that. And I was just feeling spiritually low. And just right there and then, Beautiful me.
I believe that sometimes inspiration comes from the very darkest
Indeed.
moments in your
Indeed.
life.
Indeed.
And you would have said, why?
Yes.
Beautiful me. When you're thinking the exact opposite.
Indeed. Yes.
Yeah, but tell me about your journey.
Okay.
I know we have seen this book, but
Yes.
you didn't always know that you were going to write a book?
Absolutely not.
So professionally, what do you do?
Yes. So I'm a counselor by profession.
Oh,
Yes.
what do I need to talk about? Let's see.
Yes, I'm a school counselor. I also preach from time to time
Oh, you
because
go,
I love the
girl.
Lord
You
with
go,
all my
girl.
heart.
Yes.
And I was talking to a friend earlier and I was saying that the only thing growing up that I've ever pictured myself doing or imagined was preaching. I did not have, how persons have a layout of, okay, I want to go to this college and this is what I want to become and all of that. I did not have that when I was growing up because I grew up poor. And so affording college was not anywhere near my thoughts or even my parents' pocket. But my dad, he used to preach and I admired my dad so much. My dad is my inspiration. My dad is my counselor. My dad is my best friend. My dad is disciplinarian. My dad is everything, right? So he preached and I really admired him because persons loved when my dad preached because on that Sunday church was going to end early. So I admired that. And so at home before I go to bed, I would picture myself preaching, just preaching a sermon and just winning souls for God. So at no point in time had I ever thought that I would become a counselor. But I do believe that we are called because later down the road, I was researching what my name meant. And my name actually means advisor.
That's Monique.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was like, wow. So yes, so I'm a school counselor and I preach from time to time, an aspiring evangelist, I would say.
Well,
Yes.
you're on the right
Yes.
track. I believe you will have no shortage of resources
Indeed.
to be able to preach the word and
Indeed.
express
Indeed.
yourself.
Indeed.
So, counseling. Why counseling and how difficult was it for you? You said that the background wasn't exactly one that allowed you to afford all the finer things in
Yes.
life, but you were able to go to school.
Yes.
Yeah. How did that happen?
So counseling. So after I finished high school,
Yes.
I had to work. I knew from day one that would have been in the picture. So I worked at a little supermarket in my community. And I would go to after school in the evenings to do some more subjects because my parents could not afford for me to do all the subjects that I wanted when I was in year 11. So I worked and I went to evening school so that I could get some more subjects. Now, my amazing hairdresser, she attended church teachers college. And so she and my mom, they were pretty
And
much
she's
best
a
friends.
hairdresser and
Yes,
she-
yes. Whenever she came home on weekends, yes.
Yes.
So she encouraged my mom, and she said, you can talk to the principal, you can talk to the board, they will allow you to pay the school fee in increments and all of that. And so I applied and I got through. And my life is nothing short of a miracle because up until the day when I entered college that morning, no school fee was paid. I went to college by faith.
Faith, I was just gonna say that's
Yes.
a faith move.
And I joined the line for registration with all the other kids who had their receipt to show proof of payment. And as soon as it got to my place
What were
in
you
the
planning to
line,
show them?
I would just put students in front of me and miraculously just as it was just me alone left in that line, I looked down the gate and there was my mom coming. she had gotten some money from an uncle of mine, and she was able to make my first payment on my school fee.
What a
So
great
that is
investment.
how I ended up
And do you
in teachers
appreciate
college.
that sacrifice? I'm
Absolutely.
telling you, when
Absolutely.
your parents get
Yes.
there are other things that you could have had, should have
Indeed.
bought a nice new dress or
Yes.
fix up the house,
Yes.
but she recognized
Yes.
that this investment in her
Yes.
child was
Yes.
absolutely worth it.
Absolutely.
And I have to say, parents,
Oh, indeed. Yes.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
grateful
yes.
for them. And so I did my 3 years, 3 rough years in teachers college. And my prayer to God was, God, please just let me get a job as soon as I leave college so that I'll be able to help my sister and take care of my parents. And when I say miracles happen, miracles happen. My life has been a miraculous and a faith journey. When I left college June, I got a job August to teach at Ocherous High School. So it was during this period of time that I was at Ocherous High School. I was working for the religious education teacher, and she was also counselor. So I was filling in for her, and I also had a tutor group. So I was responsible for a whole 30 kids. So here I was, young teacher, 30 kids in front of me with no experience, but in some way they would come to me when they were just struggling with different things, and I was able to give my 2 cents.
Because your name is Monique,
and
okay?
Monique, yes.
All right.
And so by doing that, I fell in love with
yes,
it.
yes,
And I realized so much of my journey, what I've encountered, during childhood, I could relate to them. And I was able to say to them that, hey, look at me. I went through what you are going through, and you've got this. You can do this. And it was a temporary position. So after 8 months, I had no job. But prayer again and faith, a teacher who was there, she said, why don't you apply to become an entertainment coordinator at Hedonism? I was like, I didn't know what that was.
Yes, yes.
I thought it was just probably, sitting down and music and, things like those. I had no idea what that job entailed, but God had a plan because I applied and they called me for an interview. So I went to the interview and they asked me why I wanted to become an entertainment personnel when, with my qualifications. So I said, listen, I need a job. And someone referred me and I applied. And they said, we have a different position for you. So, so I ended up becoming a reservations consultant at their call center. And it was while I was there, and we did like a tour of hedonism, and I saw what entertainment coordinators did, and I was like, oh my God. God had a plan. And so while I was there, booking reservation packages for all of these persons, I was like, no, this is not for me. This is not where I'm supposed to be. I want to be in the classroom. And so I went online and I applied to a university to start a course in guidance counseling. And so that's where it all started. So I got into the university and I started the course. So I was working and going to classes in the afternoon. And 2 years later, I got my bachelor's in counseling. Did not start counseling though, because I got a job again, because God is just in the works doing his thing. So I got a job as a teacher in Turks and Caicos. So I left Jamaica, I went to Turks and Caicos, and it so happened again that the position that I was filling, the person was also counseling. So here I was again with a whole tutor group, and I was teaching, but all my children, they trusted me enough to come and say, Miss, I'm experiencing this and I'm experiencing that. And I'm like, okay, I get it, God. this is what I need to be doing. So I decided that, okay, I'm going to go home. So I was pregnant, of course. So I went home and I applied. I had my son in May, and I decided I wasn't going to go back to Turks and Caicos, and I applied for the post of school counselor at a primary school in Jamaica, and I got the job. And it's been 13 years. And I absolutely love it. There has been moments when I've detoured, to be honest. I applied. I decided I wanted to do theology because the passion to go in ministry was still very much present. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to apply to go and do theology while I was working as school counselor. And I did not get into theology because they didn't have enough person for the cohort. So I ended up in counseling psychology. So there I was again. In counseling. And so I did a master's in counseling and consulting psychology, and running again, I ended up in the Middle East as an educational psychologist.
Oh, wait. Oh, wait.
Yes.
How are you doing all of that, and you have a son now that you need to be taken care of? How are you just like doing everything? Well, it seems so
It was hard.
effortless.
It was really, really hard.
But you can look back at it now.
Yes, and it was all worth it. It really was all worth it. I had days when I broke down. I had days when coffee was the only thing that I could run to because I was so tired. I was commuting before I even had a vehicle. I was commuting from St. Anne's Bay to class in Mandeville on a Friday and back home. And on a Sunday, I bring my son from St. Anne to my parents in Clarendon and then leave Clarendon, and I went to Mandeville for class. Class ended at 5:30. I commuted back to Clarendon to get my son and to go back home to St. Anne and get ready for work for the next day and take care of my baby. But it was, when I said that it was all God, it really was all God.
I am listening, and you know, very often in life we sometimes we are wondering, what am I called on earth to do?
Indeed.
And it seemed as if there was this call on your life. Each
Yes.
time you would have gone this direction,
Yes.
there's still that little call.
Yes.
You know, sometimes we
Yes.
just need to listen to it.
Indeed.
You
That is
know?
so true.
Sometimes I want what I want, I want what I want, I want
Yes, yes.
but
God's will always prevails.
God's will.
Because even when I was in the Middle East working as an educational psychologist, I still felt unfulfilled because here I was doing all of these assessments, writing all of these
How
notes.
was it like
and
in the Middle
everything.
East? Though?
It
Did
was
you enjoy
absolutely
it?
beautiful. I did. We were in Bahrain. My kids in Bahrain would say, "No, Miss Monique, that's not how you pronounce it. It is Bahrain. You have to pronounce it properly." So
Yes.
there I was. They were amazing. They were very welcoming. And you know, as a single mom being there, the teachers, they would be like, "Miss Monique, do you want us to keep Jaden so you can just go out and have some fun?" I mean, family, it was so family oriented. Each week, you know, I had somebody else come in. They were in love with my son. Like, he's amazing. Like, he has manners. And I think they fell in love with the patois because my son spoke no proper English. So the first day we went, and I went on the road to get his uniforms, I went back to the school and I saw a crowd, and I was wondering what was going on. So I took a peek. My son was in the center and he was speaking patois.
Eloquently speaking.
Listen, and everybody, they loved it. They were so amazed. They
Yeah.
did not have a clue what he was saying, but they
Yeah,
loved
yeah,
it.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and so my son is such a blessing because traveling with traveling with that little boy was so easy. I mean, for him, it was such an adventure. He ran. We played hide and seek. He's like, "Mommy, can you catch me?" We were going through the airport to catch a flight, and he was like, "Mommy, let's race." And it was just. And when we got there, he said, "Mommy, I'm ready to go to school." He was 3.5 at the time, and he was like, "Mommy, I'm ready to go to school. When do I go to school? I don't want to sleep. I'm ready to go to school." And the following morning, I dropped him off at school, and he said, "Mommy, bye."
I think you're just
Oh my God.
you're just a super strong and resilient woman.
I
I don't
try
know
to
how
be.
you found time in all of that to be depressed and
It was
feeling
all
less
God.
than or having low self-esteem. Tell
I
me
think
about that. At
because
what
I
point?
was I think because I was going and going and going and
Yes.
going. So and I knew that, listen, this is where I'm coming from, and I want to make better. I knew that I needed to help my parents because I knew the sacrifices that they made in order for me to get where I was at, and I also knew that I needed to help my sister because my parents could not help my sister. And at the same time, I knew at this point I have a human being that I needed to be an example. I need to set an example for him, and I needed a better life for him than I had, right? And so I had to keep that at the forefront. And so that was the thing, or this little man, this little person in my life, he was my driving force. He was that little person who gave me the will to just push through. And the truth is, there were so many nights, even when I was in the Middle East and my son was sleeping, I was in tears. I was crying. I felt, there were moments when I felt hopeless. There were moments when, yes, as you mentioned earlier, when I questioned my purpose, because, like, God, what is it that I'm supposed to do? Like, I'm confused. Like, here I am. You've provided me this opportunity and I'm not happy. This is not what I want to do. So what is really my calling? What is my purpose? And so I had all of those questions and everything. And then it so happened that there came a point in time while I was there that they decided that, oh, you know what? We're going to have you become a classroom teacher at a primary school. I'm like, no, not happening. And that made it even worse. I was like, I need to go home. I want to go home. I cannot do this. I don't want to be a teacher. I left teaching. And so this job here, I applied for this job for 4 consecutive years in a row.
You got determination.
And
girl.
it was not, and so while I was there crying,
Yes.
it was like the Holy Spirit just said, just go back on that website, search for jobs in the Cayman Islands. And the position was right there. There were actually 3 positions that I could apply for. I actually applied for all 3. And I got the interview. And oh my God, the interview, when they called me, remember, I'm in the Middle East, we're 8 hours ahead. They called me and there were everything that could go wrong with that telephone line, and I think it was Skype at that time went wrong. So it was a telephone interview because Skype was Skyping, as we
Yes.
say nowadays.
Yes,
It was
yes,
just not
yes.
working. And so the call got disconnected several times, and I was so certain that I did not get that job. The interview was over an hour, and I was sweating, I was anxious, I was nervous, everything, all of the self-defeating thoughts that you could think about were going through my head. But the interview ended and I was there, and I was sure that I did not get the job. So the following day I was online and I was like, okay, if I need to go back in the hotel industry, then that's what I'm gonna do, but I'm not gonna stay here. I'm gonna go back home, and if I have to go in the hotel industry, I'm gonna go in the hotel industry, but I'm not staying. I don't want to be a teacher. And it was coming to a close for my contract to end, and I'm like, God, what am I gonna do? I apply for all these hotel jobs, nobody's calling me. I have this little boy to take care of, my sister is in UE. Like, what is going on? I don't want to stay here. And so I think it was 2 days before, and I packed because I was going home. And 2 days before, I got the email that I got the job here. And I cried. I was like, thank you, Jesus.
I mean, we say God is on time, but when you're going through those
Yes.
times,
Yes.
I'm telling you,
Indeed.
you are like wondering,
Yes.
is God even
Indeed.
hearing?
Indeed.
I mean,
Yes.
I'm out here on my own.
Indeed,
And
yes.
what
Yeah.
else do I need to do?
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
right there. It's crunch time. It's crunch
Yes.
time.
Indeed.
And I am listening to you tell your story, and I'm just amazed at how God can work things out, and
Yes.
a path,
Yeah.
a road that is blocked, a
Yes.
detour that is made,
Indeed.
all for you to
Yes.
accomplish your purpose.
To just step into our purpose.
Yes, yes, yes,
Indeed.
yes.
Yes.
And so to a listener out there who is viewing us and you are wondering what next for my life, where do I turn? The odds may be stacked up against you at this point. No money for school. Join the line. You don't have to have the receipt and the proof. We speak about faith. You
Yes.
don't have to have everything. The
Exactly.
desire,
Yes. And,
the desire
Yes.
to accomplish that goal is the fuel
Yes.
to bring
Indeed.
it
Indeed.
into fruition.
And even when I applied for NCU, like I did not have school fee. I had a car on the road.
You
'Cause
just
girl be
have faith,
hustling,
girl.
okay? I had a car on the road that I had purchased because things has always been
No, I believe you're a
difficult.
resilient
Okay?
Monique. Monique.
Things has always been hard. And so at one point I have a son to take care of. Dad was doing his thing, so it was just me. And I needed to show up for my child. So I went to the bank. I got a loan. I got a taxi. I gave it to my cousin. Lord, that was the wrong thing to do. I applied to NCU and I said, God, I took the car. I said, God, if you allow someone to come and purchase this car, I'm going to use this as the sign that I should go to NCU. I don't know where the rest of the school fees coming from, but what I was selling the car for, it was enough to pay a semester's school fee. Friday, 2 p.m., the bank closed at 3 or 3:30. School was Sunday. The car got sold at 2 p.m. I rushed to the bank and I paid my school fee, and I was in
I think
class
God favors you.
Sunday
I
morning.
think you have.
I believe the
I
favor
think-
of the Lord is indeed upon my life. Honestly,
Even if it's the last minute,
yes.
you just put it out there and
Yes.
say, you know what,
Yes.
God is
Yes.
gonna work it out.
Yes. And I went through NCU. I left NCU owing 2 point something million dollars. And usually you don't get to graduate.
Right.
You don't get to march.
Yeah.
Unless your school fees paid.
Yeah, I know.
But I did not get to March when I had gotten my bachelor's degree, and I wanted my parents to see me march. And so I wrote a letter to the dean, and I asked them, please, you can hold
Mercy.
on to my
Mercy.
master's.
Yes.
You can hold on to it or whatever. I can write a letter, whatever it is that
Yes.
you need me to
Yes.
do. Please allow me to march. I
Yes.
need my parents to have this moment because it wasn't me, it was them. I wanted them to have that moment, and they contemplated and they allowed me to march. They allowed me to march, and one of the reasons too why I really and truly ended up in the Middle East. Where was I going to get this 2 point something million dollars in a classroom in Jamaica? That my bills exceed my salary.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
God sent me there. God sent me there right in the middle of ISIS. My parents were so scared. They were like, leave the baby, you alone go. And I'm like, I'm not going. I'm not leaving without my child. I said, if God has brought me to this, he will bring me through this. And that moment when I was in Bahrain, I was able to pay off NCU. I was able to pay my school fee off and get my master's. I got my documents in my hand. Yeah.
You know,
So start.
again,
Just start.
again,
It's
again.
a faith. It's a
Faith move.
move.
Because,
Yes.
you know, when you're thinking about a large institution, a university,
Yes.
who goes to say, okay, I owe you $2 million, but you
Yes.
know, I'm
Yes.
good for it. I'll
Yes.
pay you, right? Just allow me
Yes.
to march.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
who does that? You know,
Yeah.
guys, just push. You know, keep
Just-
on
just
pushing,
push.
keep on
Yes.
holding on.
One of my favorite scripture is that scripture in Habakkuk where it speaks of the vision. Though the vision tarry, just write the vision plain, and though it tarry, it is going to come to pass, but it is indeed in God's timing. And his timing, it is different from our timing, but he's an on-time God, and I've proven God to be an on-time faithful God in my life from day one. My brother before me, he died a couple hours after birth, and I
I'm
was
so
given
sorry.
the same. My parents were told that I would share the same faith, and here I am, 41 years later. My sister after me died, so I was born sick, and my dad will tell you the story how he brought me home. Fever grass was my bed. He prayed. He prayed for my life. And here I am. Brother died. I'm the middle child. Sister after me died. And here I am 41 years later.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is what Sensational Sunday is all about. It's bringing the inspiration and motivation to get you to where you need to go. Get up, get out, and know that God has a plan for your life. So keep on moving, and stay connected to Flashpoint and Sensational Sunday. It's time for a break.
When you need ultrasound that's safe and effective, you must visit Asai Ultrasound Imaging. They're conveniently located at number 4 Chestnut Center, Smith Road, Georgetown, Cayman Islands. With experienced technologists with over 20 years experience, their friendly staff will make you comfortable while you get your procedure done. Asai Ultrasound Imaging is open Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Call Asai Ultrasound Imaging 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426. That's 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426.
Welcome back to Sensational Sunday. I'm your girl Elise, and in studio with me this afternoon is Monique Anderson. Yes, she's the author of this beautiful book. It's called Beautiful Me. Now, she has been telling us that the road has not always been smooth. It has not always been easy for her. She has had to go through some difficult times, but she is here today trusting and believing that God has a plan for her life, for your life, for our lives. So we should just step and walk into our purpose. No, she has made a faith move and she has graduated from NCU. She has gone to work overseas. God has provided a job so she can cover a few expenses. But now we're going to talk about her book. You know, all this has laid the foundation for this beautiful book, these words that are penned. And it's the reason she has penned this book is not for herself. You know, that seed was planted because of her experiences. And so, being the counselor that she is, the advisor that she has born as, she has penned this book, A Beautiful Me. And I like the first chapter says, you know, what is beauty?
Yes.
What is beauty?
So for me, beauty is who you are on the inside. I think for a lot of persons, people tend to focus on outward appearance. But for me, beauty is what is in your heart, because it is what is in your heart that comes out on the outside. And for a very long time, I was enslaved to the idea that beauty was about straight, nice, curly hair, or, you know, a lighter complexion, Coca-Cola bottle shape.
I think we
Because
all
that's-
have been taught that
That's
narrative.
what society
Yes,
taught
yes,
us.
yes.
And now we have social media that is planting something similar in the minds of our
Yeah.
young people, and not only young people but also adults, where you have to have the voluptuous breasts and, you know, the their mouth, lip, you know, all of that. And so they see all of this, and now for them, oh my god, I don't look like this, so I'm ugly. When the
Yeah.
truth is, beauty is what is within. It's
Yeah.
what's in your heart, and then that comes out. And that's what people see, and that's who you are, and that is really what beauty is.
How important is it for individuals to recognize what the true meaning of beauty, especially with your experience with counseling and psychology? How important is it for you to know that beauty is more than skin deep?
Okay, so it for me it is extremely important because living with low self-esteem and low confidence, all of those things that I experience, you know, settling for mediocrity, entering into relationships because I needed validation from others, because I didn't feel like I was enough. I didn't feel pretty enough. I didn't feel beautiful enough. I never thought that I was beautiful. And because of that, I was fearful. I was fearful to make use of certain opportunities that had presented themselves in front of me, because I felt like I didn't deserve it. So you have that inner critic, that inner voice that is telling you that, okay, you don't look like that person, so you cannot walk in that room and open your mouth and say anything, when that is not true. Those are lies that we would have been fed by society. And so when you get to the place where you understand that beauty is not skin deep, I am enough, because beauty encapsulates so many things. It's I am enough. It is I am confident, is I am worthy. It's I can walk into that room because I am blessed and I am gifted with gifts and talents just like everybody else. It is knowing that you belong. It's knowing that the puzzle isn't complete without you. You fit in. It doesn't matter what shape or size or color you are, you fit in. There's a place for you in this world because God has given you a certain gift and a certain talent, and in his whole creation there's a piece of that puzzle, the world as we would know it, that you have that space and nobody else can take that space because that space belongs to you. Yes.
I am listening to this, and so many people need to know this.
Yes.
And I'm speaking to women and men.
Yes.
Because we face a challenge of growing up with a certain standard.
Yeah.
And we try, as you say, it affects so many things.
It does.
It affects the job that you do, your confidence level, that promotion that you're supposed to get.
Yes.
You just feel that you are not good enough,
Yeah.
you are not pretty enough, you
Yes.
are not. It affects your confidence.
It does.
It
Absolutely.
certainly affects your confidence and so much of you. It affects
Yes.
your health.
It does.
Because then
Yes.
you go ahead to do things to beautify yourself.
Yes. Yes. Which is what I did, because I ended up with an eating disorder because I felt like, I didn't have
the
that
right-
nice shape. Yes, I was too fat and I hated my forehead. Like, now I can actually walk around without having a bang or a bob or whatever the kids
You
call
did
it
that?
nowadays. I did, because I hated my forehead, and my teeth are, there's a little bit of I don't even know how to describe how they're shaped, but they're not like straight, like,
Yes,
and I
yes.
hated it. There were so many things that I hated about me. I hated my hair because it was so thick, and my mom used to comb my hair, two big plaits is what we call it, and I just felt ugly. I felt ugly all over. And so because of that, I would be the girl sitting at the back of the class. I was so unsure of myself. Even if I knew the answer to the question, I would not answer the question. I would not raise my hand. And even as I got older, I realized that it was the same thing even when I went to college or university. I was the girl, the girl with the low self-esteem, no confidence whatsoever, feeling like she's not worthy of being in this room among all of these persons, feeling as if she wasn't smart enough. I was sitting at the back just the same, and even though I had the answer to the question, I would not raise my hand. I remember even as a counselor, I would go in counselors meeting, and I had things to say, but I was looking at all of these persons. They were well spoken. In my head, that's what my inner critic was telling me, that these persons, they were well spoken, they use big words, as we would call it, and I'm just this little girl from that little community in James Hill, Clarendon. Girl, sit down and don't say anything. You're not even worthy to be in this room. And that's what our inner critic will tell us. And the things that we go through, our experiences, some of them that are extremely traumatic, can also put us in this place. It does affect how we think about ourselves, how we see ourselves, and how we show up.
So when did that transformation occur? When did you realize how beautiful you are, that you didn't need a bang? And you can speak and sit here confidently, knowing and being satisfied with being Monique.
Yes. So 3 years ago.
Only 3 years
Yes,
ago?
only 3 years ago.
You are brand new.
Yes, I am very much brand new, and a lot of persons would never believe, because
So you have
this
to make
is
up
what
time,
we do.
Because if all those years before you're
Yes.
busy doing that, what?
Yes.
You have to make up
Yes,
time,
yes.
girl.
Yeah. And this is what we do.
Yeah.
We put on a mask and we dress in nice outfits and we show up. We show up. And nobody knows what is behind that mask. And so 3 years ago, going through a divorce, feeling broken, feeling rejected, I was trying to stop consuming alcohol, because alcohol had become my happy pill. That's what I call it.
It does that.
It does that. And, just really, really struggling, battling depression, feeling hopeless, and thinking that, okay, I remember there was a moment in time when I was there and I was like, okay, if I die now, God will provide somebody to take care of my son. That's where I was at. I remember I was going home one evening, and in my mind, I said, God, I'm ready. Like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired of everything. I'm ready. So I know you will send someone to take care of my son, but I'm ready now. Right now. Just take me right now. I said that was in my
You're
thoughts.
all
I
done
didn't
with this
say
life.
it out
Yeah,
loud.
yeah.
And my phone rang. And it was my mom. She said, Mo, this lady just called me and she asked me for your number. She said she just wants to pray with you. And I said, okay, because I'm done. I'm hopeless and everything already. So, okay.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
So I went upstairs. I got home. I went upstairs. I went straight to the kitchen for my alcohol bottle and the phone rang. I had poured the alcohol. I put it down on the table and I answered the phone. The lady said to me, she said, what are you talking about? You're ready to go home. Go where? And you have your son to take care of. She said, you work here.
You didn't say anything to her?
Nothing. I was in my car by myself. This lady's in Jamaica. I'm here. And I never said this out loud. It was just in my thoughts. She said, go where? She said, you have so much work here to do. Who's going to take care of your son? You're not going anywhere. And this lady, she started praying. She prayed about the depression. She said, go in your room right now, take down those dark curtains. And she prayed about the depression. She said, you were not rejected. Stop feeling. Listen, this girl, this lady, oh my God. I get chills every time I talk about it. And I was floored and I started crying and I was like, oh my God. I was like, God. She said, stop. She said, go do what God told you to do, which is beautiful me, which is to write. And so I dried my tears after she was finished. And I called my mom. I said, Mommy, did you talk to this lady about me? And she said, no, she just called my number. And she asked me if I had a daughter in Cayman. And I said, yes. And she said, okay, can I get her number? And that was it for me. That was it. Not saying that it wasn't hard from there, but that was it for me. So I went to school. The Monday, I went to my principal and I said, sir, is it okay if I start just writing a newsletter? I want to call it Beautiful Me. So what I will do is I will write on different topics each week. And if you could share it with the staff so they can share it with the children. And he said, oh, absolutely, Miss Monique. You know, he's such a supportive principal, Mr. Clark. So I started, what is beauty? And that's where it all started. And I checked into therapy. So I started going to therapy because I was really depressed. I was just crying. I was depressed. I was writing and I was crying because I was hurt. Going through a divorce. I have a little boy to take care of. There were financial issues. There was just so many things, you know, and I started writing. And so it's like each week when I went to therapy, whatever it is that we talked about or how I was feeling, then that would be what I would pen. That's what I would write. So I remember there was a moment when I felt so rejected. I was just feeling rejected. You know, I was like, this relationship, this is 16 years of my life. And my previous relationship, it was 7 years. You know, that altogether, that's like 20 something years of my life. And these men, they just... And so, you know, he explained something. Sometimes you just need another perspective. And he said to me, Monique, a pencil, if you have a crayon book or a coloring page and you have a pencil and a crayon, which one are you going to choose? He said the crayon. And he said, okay. And he said, you are not rejected. These persons, they had needs that maybe it was the crayon that could fulfill those needs, but you were the pencil. So you could not fulfill that need. And so naturally, as human beings, we are going to go to the source that is going to fulfill our needs at that point in time. And I was like, wow. You know, so it made me feel so good that, okay, I was not rejected. And so I wrote, there's a whole section in there on, you know, just dealing with rejection. And sometimes my students, they inspire me as well. I remember one day there was this little girl, she came and she said, Miss, I don't fit in. And even in that moment, the Holy Spirit would have me refer to one of those puzzles that, you know, we put the pieces together, and sometimes we're putting the pieces together. It's so hard to put it together to get the complete thing. And we may put down little pieces because we're like, that don't fit anywhere. But at the end of the day, the puzzle is not complete without that piece. And I said to her, I said, the world as God created it is not complete without you. You bring something to the world. You bring something beautiful to the world, and you do fit in, because in God's grand scheme of things, you fit in. There's a place and a space for you.
Oh.
And so, I mean, that was how, and initially it should not even have been a book, to be honest. It was just letters that I was sending to the students. And, you know, I started to receive positive feedbacks even from teachers, and even male teachers who were, you know, just having these struggles. And so I said, okay, I started sharing it on my WhatsApp page, and I was getting all these feedbacks where persons were like, oh my God, on the topic of self-hate, oh my God, you know, Monique, oh my God, thank you for giving me a new perspective on this and a new way to look at this. And I was like, oh my God. And it made me feel good, because as I was writing, I was healing, and I was also helping others. And I'm passionate about helping others, just to see who they are, especially my children, my children at school, just to realize who they are, and just to come to the understanding that you do have a purpose. You know, you're beautiful, and it's what's on the inside that comes out, and just for them to accept themselves for who they are, because I had to accept me. Like, God took me on a journey where I had to look in the mirror at the girl, and I had to love on this girl. I had to go in front of the mirror.
Not like you can change her, right?
I had to go in front of this mirror and hug this girl, even when I didn't believe it, and say, Mo, I love you. And I had to do that for several months until I started loving on me. And I had to write down all of the things that I hated about me, even including my weight and everything and whatever. And God had me fall in love with that person and accept that person, flaws and all, before he took me on the journey where the things that I probably didn't like the weight, where I could actually start working out, you know, and lose some of the weight. But it was a journey for me. And so every single thing that is in Beautiful Me, it's my journey. It's a journey that God would take me on. And I had to accept myself. I had to accept myself with all the weaknesses and everything, and recondition my mind. I tell my students, I said to them, I said, our mind is like a filing cabinet. So if you only deposit negative files in that cabinet, people are going to identify it as the negative filing cabinet. But the moment you start putting little bits of positive things inside that cabinet, before long, it's going to push back all the negative things. And before you know it, people are going to be like, okay, I can go to that cabinet for positive and negative. And then before you know it, if you continue feeding it with positive things, we're going to have to find another place to put the negative ones, because it's now the positive filing cabinet. And it's the same thing with us. We need to constantly feed ourselves with positive things. Speak to yourself properly.
Speak over yourself.
Speak over your life.
Encourage
even
yourself.
When you don't believe it, speak it. Because before long, the more often you say it,
you believe it.
You believe it. And so I had to do that, and all of that is there. I have had to face my fears. I've had to deal with failures. You know, I've had to talk back to my inner critic. I've had to live everything. And so there was one day when I was going through stuff, and I said, God, why? Like, why me? Haven't I gone through enough? And the Holy Spirit would whisper and say to me, I call you, and then now I'm equipping you. Now, I didn't tell you how I was going to equip you. And the truth is, the equipping process can be so very hard. But at the end of the day, when I've equipped you, when you show up, Girl, you show up. You show up with authenticity, and you know what you're talking
Nobody
about.
told you. You have
You've
experienced
lived it.
yourself.
And I've seen my
Yes.
children and even adults when they're able to say, Miss, I'm experiencing this. And I can say to them that, girl, I've been there and done that. And you see their shoulders just relax. And they said, really, miss? And I said, yes, I've been there. And here I am now. And I will share, I share a bit of the information, a bit of my story with them. I know how far to go. And they're like, wow, miss. And they leave the office with hope. Like, okay, well, if miss went through that and if miss did that, that means nothing is wrong with me. I'm being human. And so I encourage them to give yourself space to be human.
Give yourself
I've had
some
to learn
grace.
that. Exactly.
Give yourself some
One
grace.
day when I was beating up on myself, it's like God said to me, listen, stop it. You're human. You have feelings. That's how I created you. The same grace that you offer to others. You're so quick to forgive others. You show compassion when it comes to others. You show empathy. Give yourself some of that. So the same graces that you offer to everybody else, give that to you.
You fall
too.
down sometimes.
Yeah.
You get some scars. You get bruised.
Yes, absolutely.
And you know, you mentioned when you started that your father was a preacher, so you never lacked the biblical knowledge and
indeed.
the knowledge of God.
And I'm so grateful
Yeah,
for that.
and even with that knowledge, you go through stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
Stuff
absolutely.
happens, and sometimes, you know, persons are even harder on themselves
It's
because
true.
you think, okay,
Yes.
I should know better.
Yes.
And
Yes.
because of that,
Yes.
persons can't see what is happening
It's
on the
true.
inside.
Yeah.
But inside you're just
Yes.
dying.
And I'm learning. It was this morning I was saying to God, I said, God, like, I know my weaknesses. I know them. I know them now. And I admit that I do have weaknesses. But your word also said that you show up in our weaknesses and your strength is shown perfect in those moments. So I said, God, I acknowledge I have them. I list them. And I said, and I'm asking you to just show up in them for me. So I'm even reading the book now, and I'm writing down in those pages, and I'm still learning from the book.
Yes.
And my hope is that I'm hoping to give all my girls, because I have a girls group now at John Gray. It's called Rise. Respect, inspire, support, and empower. That's what Rise means. I have 100 girls, and I want to give 100 girls a copy of my book because I want them to experience that change. I want them to see that you are beautiful. One of the things I prayed for even at the beginning of the book was, I said, God, help me to see myself through your lenses, please, because when I look in the mirror, what I see, I don't like. So help me to see myself through your lenses.
Change your glasses,
and
man.
help
Change your
me
glasses.
to see
Yes.
others through
Yes.
your lenses. Because
Yes.
I wrote in the book about the 4 mirrors. So you have the mirror of how you see yourself. There's one about how the world sees you. And then there's one where God sees you. And then you have a 4th mirror, which is really what we want, which is us seeing ourselves through God's lenses, how God sees us.
Girl, it has been a journey, but
It
it
has
has
been.
been worth
Indeed.
every single
Indeed.
experience, the
Yes.
good and bad and
Yes.
everything in between.
Yes.
That lady that called you, have you ever been in touch with that?
No, like that was it that day. I did not hear from her again. I didn't. Like that was it.
Do you believe? Listen,
That
listen,
was
listen.
it.
Yeah.
That was it.
That's
that was
amazing.
it.
You know,
Indeed.
set healthy boundaries.
Yes.
What does that look like?
So it's and I'm still trying to set my boundaries. It is learning to say no and actually mean no. It is learning to say, okay, and especially in our day-to-day relationships and friendships and even intimate relationships, it is so important that you set these boundaries and say, I'm not going to cross these. You cannot cross them either in friendships. Okay, so this is of how far I'm going to go with you. If you want to go further, that is not me. So you have to outline these things. It's who you are. Because if you don't set boundaries in relationships and even with yourself, you're going to find that you end up getting hurt, right? People are not going to take you seriously, and you are going to just be people will use you. People will use you, and so you have to set these boundaries, and
For
you
your
have
own
to
health
stick
and
to
well-being.
these boundaries for
Yeah.
exactly your mental
Yeah.
health depends on it.
You know, sometimes you're not even sure when the boundaries have been crossed because you have not set any.
Exactly.
And you don't know that you should
Yes.
set any boundaries.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes on to your friends.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and so
yes.
yeah, this book is
Yes.
a very interesting
Yes.
book.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
we need to set boundaries, and
Yes.
here you have types of boundaries.
Definitely.
And the ways to set healthy
yes.
boundaries.
Yes, and you have to be consistent. Consistency is so very important, because what we tend to do from time to time is we set these boundaries, and then, something may happen and we may step outside of it, and then people don't take you seriously because you're not consistent with it. So every now and then it's like you keep stepping out. You have to be consistent with you. You have to be consistent with how you treat yourself, with how you take care of yourself, and that includes setting boundaries, because there's so many things that we do that encapsulate self-care. It's setting these boundaries. It is going to bed at 7 o'clock at night time. It's eating well. It's exercising. It's being so very careful as to what you take in on social media. It's all of these things. It's your time. It's
you
all
might
of
be
that.
using your time for good.
Yes.
Say you're at church, right? And you
Yes.
have church in the morning, church in the afternoon,
Yes.
church at night, but it's church.
It is, yeah.
So you don't set the boundaries.
Yes.
So you don't get the chance for you to recover and
Indeed.
rest.
Yeah.
So boundaries, it's for everyone
It
and for
is.
every situation.
is,
You have to set
absolutely.
no matter
Yes.
how good is it,
Yes,
temperance
you
is
have to. It's so important.
it is so important.
Because we're humans.
We are
Yes,
humans.
yeah.
I am happy that you got that call. I am happy
too.
for your journey. I'm sitting here feeling so empowered. I feel encouraged. I feel inspired and motivated. And I'm happy that you have taken the time. And, sometimes God, you get a little inkling, whether it's to send a message, and maybe you're shy,
Yes,
because
yes.
people say you're spamming them.
Yes, indeed.
Right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
the seed was planted.
Yes.
And you could have gone ahead and ignored it. There are better
Yes.
things that you could have
Yes.
done, right? You could
Yes,
have said,
absolutely,
okay,
yes.
I have other stuff to do.
Yes. Yeah,
But-
yes.
And it did not just stop with you. Now you have a group of young ladies
Yes.
that need this
Absolutely,
information.
yes.
It's not just wasted stuff.
Yes.
Because if you can change someone's life,
Yes.
you could be training the next prime minister.
Yes, indeed.
The next person that will save your
Indeed.
life, because
Yes.
okay, you would have
Yes.
been in this dark place and wondering where to go, and you're
Yes.
thinking, I don't look like that person.
Yeah.
I am a little voluptuous,
Yes.
right? And my hair isn't exactly,
Yes.
I mean, like picky and and things like that.
Yes,
We
yes.
face those challenges.
We do,
They
yeah.
are real.
Yeah, yeah. And I sit in front of some beautiful girls every day who don't love themselves, who don't accept themselves. And, one of the things that I wrote about is self-acceptance, because it's so very important. Because if we don't accept ourselves, how is it that we expect others to accept us? If we don't love ourselves, how is it that we expect others to love us? people will treat us as good as we treat ourselves or as bad as we treat ourselves. So for me, when you love yourself, you're going to dress well. You're not going to carry yourself any way. You're going to treat yourself well. And so when you love yourself, it comes out, and people can actually see it by the way you carry yourself, your tone, the way you speak, and all of that sort of stuff. And so people now, instead of you having people who are always walking in and out of your life, you're gonna have people now who they're in love with you because you're in love with you. And so you are going to now attract what you are. You're going to attract people to you who are going to love you unconditionally just as much as you love yourself unconditionally. They're going to treat you well just as good as you treat yourself. And you've realized that you're going to find people who are not just going to come in your life to take, and the moment that you have nothing to give, they're gone. You're going to find people who are going to come in your life because they love your authenticity. They love you because you love you, and they don't want anything. They just want you to be yourself. And so it is so very, very important that we accept and love ourselves, and that's what Beautiful Me is about. It's loving and accepting yourself for who you are, flaws and all, because you can't give what you don't know.
Yeah,
so it starts with you.
How can you love someone
Exactly.
if you don't love
If
yourself?
you don't love yourself.
How do you do that?
Exactly. And one of the things that God did was, I don't even know how to describe it up until this day. Like, God, I could feel his love in such a tangible way. And that was the moment that I started, I knew love. I felt love. I knew what love looked like, felt like, and everything, because I experienced in that moment the love of God. And from there, God taught me how to love me unconditionally and to love others. And to offer myself grace and to accept myself and just all of that. And it has just been a really beautiful journey that God has taken me on. And I'm really, really hoping that, as persons read the book, the Holy Spirit will just breathe life into every person who reads the book, and that it will really change their lives. That is my hope. That is really my hope, because it has changed my life. It is my journey. God has used it to really change my life.
There's more to come. I mean, I'm looking at you and you're saying all this transformation, has taken place over the past 3 years. And already you are this beautiful, confident woman, and you're sharing this confidence. What next? I mean,
so of course on the book it says a journal series. So I am actually at chapter 10 of book number 2. Yes. Yes. So I'm hoping it will be a Christmas gift to somebody in December. So I'm aiming for a December release of journal series number 2. And then I don't know where God is going to take me from there. But right now I'm working on it. Yes,
you're trusting the process.
Yes.
This has been a truly sensational, amazing, motivating, inspiring episode of Sensational Sunday. I want you to share with the listeners. You have shared so much, but someone needs to hear again from you. They have been through tough times. They are not sure. They don't feel so beautiful. Not beautiful at all, by the standards that have been set. And you're not sure. Things aren't, looking. Share with someone.
Yeah. So one of the things that I mentioned was my relationship with God. And I'm so grateful for my parents, because they made sure that they set the foundation for that relationship. And what God wants from us is relationship. And he wants us to talk to him, come to him naked, just tell him. I mean, at the end of the day, he knows, but he still wants us to tell him, because that's how we build relationship, through communication with him. And I've had to be naked before God, and I just tell him, I said, listen, God, I feel ugly. I know you create me, but I feel ugly. This is how I feel. I don't like my this and I don't like that. But at the end of the day, I know that you say that I am created in your image and I love you. So I want you to teach me how to love what you have created. Because if I'm created in your image, and if I say I don't love me, then is it that I'm saying that I don't love you? And I love you. So help me to love what you have created. And God has called us. He says we are royalty. We are royal diadems. And if you should research what a diadem is, it is a crown. And when you look at these queen and princess and you see those beautiful crowns that they wear, that is what God calls us. We're beautiful. Right? And if you would just, I'm going to encourage somebody to just go and research what a royal diadem is. And you will see that's how God sees us. And just ask God, God, help me to see myself through your lenses, please. Just give me a glimpse. And one thing I know about God is he says that if you ask, you will receive. We have not because we ask not. Ask him. I go to him. Listen, I say, God, if I'm bothering you again, I don't care. But I need a glimpse of this. I need a glimpse of that. I go as far as say, listen, I want to hear your voice. I said, I said to him, I said, God, I'm slow. And my ears, I don't hear so well. So if you have to clean out the ears properly, if you have to show whatever it is you have to do it. Break down the thing so that I can understand it and everything. But help me. And that's where God wants to take us, to that place where we are open and we are naked and we ask him. And even if your faith is not so big, he says faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. And even if you feel that you don't have the mustard seed faith, ask him, say, God, help me.
Yeah.
Give me some faith. May the spirit of faith sit on me. Help me to have faith. Help me to trust you. Help me to depend on you. Ask him. Because I have had to ask God. I said, God, I'm begging you, please, night after night. And one morning I just sat down, and when I tell you that I could feel his love so tangible, it is an experience that I would love everybody to have.
Yes.
But just talk to God.
Beautiful Me is available on Amazon, right? So go ahead and hop on and look for this book written by Monique Anderson.
And I also have copies.
And she also has copies right here in the Grand K. So, of course, I will definitely be sharing the link in the description so that you can go ahead and get your own copy of Beautiful Me. It has been a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. This Sensational Sunday is indeed sensational. This message, this book, is for someone today, a listener and a viewer. And I want to encourage you to share the link, because someone needs to know that there's hope in spite of the circumstance. So I want to thank you for tuning in to Sensational Sunday. I'm your girl Elise, and as usual, I encourage you to stay connected, and I will see you same time, same place. So stay connected. Have a good one. Peace. Sensational Sundays with your girl Elise on Flashpoint Radio. Come, let's talk, let's hang, let's just jam on Sunday, 3 p.m. Flashpoint Radio.